Hey, everybody. We're here. Are you muted? You're not muted.
There. My volume is down.
Thank you. Hope everybody's had a good week. I don't know where I say this every week, but I don't know where the week went. We have still double working on the platform transfer. I'm so close to being done with, I think I'm down to 300 people. Thank you all for being patient, hanging in there with us. I wish I could say it was going faster, but it's so tedious. But we're getting there. And Paul has been doing the extra fun job of transferring all of the VSMM extra calls over, which most of you know there's like 100 of them, but he has to download the video and then upload the video and all that. So he's got the boring job. And then we're still dealing with our cars. So we've been running back and forth, dealing with the vehicles and rental cars and all that crap. So thank you for being patient.
Week.
Yes, it has.
Been a great week.
Next week will be more of the same. So I'm going to do just a little bit. I do want to go over the forms that I uploaded, I think yesterday or the day before. They're not super complicated, but I did want to kind of talk about specifically kind of an invoice or a receipt you can give. The first one I have in there is okay, good, because you can probably see through. It's just a simple form that you can use when you're taking information in. Yeah, I see that. When you're taking in machines, if you just, and I do say you can give it to your customer to fill out. I think Paul in the last years of our shop started doing it with a clipboard himself because
No,
well, it was Deanne. Oh, it was Deanne.
Yeah.
One of our shop staff got to the point where she was filling them out because when people are in a hurry and they scribble and you don't have, like, their phone number doesn't work and their email doesn't work, then you're stuck. So you use your discretion on what you choose to do with it. So that one's
I did
pretty
tell him to
dry.
write legibly though.
Yeah.
I know it didn't always work,
but yeah, so this one's an easy one that's in there. And I if anybody wants the file to change it and make it a little, whatever you want to do to it, that's fine too. The other one is, this is literally the original little invoice form that I started using in the early days. And you can see this is like before it was Sewing Doc. So this was when I first became an owner of a quilt shop, and that was in beginning of 2015. So it had our little shop logo on this side. The one I put in there for now does have just a general, there's no contact info in there. And that's because I make this into a template so that you can do check marks and fill this in like I did here on the computer. And if I can't, there's no way for me to change that for everyone. So it's kind of like all or nothing. So I'm happy to kind of make this form. If you want to request one, I'd be happy to make it with your information at the top. I would just need that, and I'll put a link in the group for that. But I am going to share my screen for a minute and show you how I did this. This carried me through, let's see, if that was 2015, it was probably 2018 before we started using the ticket system.
That's
so
right.
Yeah, and that we were still doing a pretty high volume of machines when we were using this form. So give me just a second to share my screen. Okay, what's going on here?
Andy, did you number those, or did you just do it by the customer?
Oh, I did number them. Yeah, up at the top here. Let me get into here real quick and I'll show you. I have to go to my desktop, and I saved it on my desktop. Where is it at? Okay, so it is kind of a template. Is it not coming up yet? Okay, Zoom, share, documents. I'm not shared a document.
No, go back to screen and then click on the Acrobat.
Oh, there it is. I couldn't see it.
There you go.
Okay. So yeah, so what I did do it by, I saved them by customer name. So I would do it by last name first. That was just easier for me. But we were using a tag system. So you can see up here in the top, there is a slot for a tag. And that's where we were handwriting tags back then. So we did like 001, 002, zeros, and just kept numbering them. And then when we get down to the last, 10 or so, then we'd start making a new batch. So what I like about this form, you can see all the blue ones. This is just a PDF that's a form now. And when you type in here, it's going to adjust the font to fit. So we'll just put 1, 2, 3, 4 in there. And then we'll just put Amy someone, and then the date. And then and then their email. And then here in machine info, this is where you want the brand and model when possible. And that had come in really handy because somebody calls you and you have a question or about their machine, you'll have that information. So let's just say, I'm going to try to make this long so you can see. So you can see it shrinks down the text to fit, which is very handy. And then your serial number, and this is really where it was necessary in
Yeah,
the email.
Cause
And
some of
on,
those serial numbers. are
yeah,
wrong.
so you can put in all kinds of, numbers in there. It'll shrink down to whatever. And then you can check mark these. So you've split up between an appointment or a rush where we talked about before, if they paid $25 or something for a rush, you could click that. Just a regular routine service. And then we did mark restoration back then because especially with us having more than one person, but really it's a reminder if someone calls and you're like, I don't know what's taking so long, it's a reminder that it's a restoration and not a fast job. And then we have mechanical, computerized, treadle, embroidery, surgery. This really helped. Again, this is when we're starting to do volume. So if we could immediately find a machine on a shelf, it's like, oh yeah, it's a treadle because it's off in the corner somewhere. So you can just mark whatever you want. And then this is where we kind of did, this is at the end of your this is what you're doing when the machine's done and you're getting ready to give it back to the customer. And this is what I used to double check that we had everything. So we had their take-in form next to us and we would check to make sure the power cord, the foot pedal, the bobbin case, if they had one, and whatever foots that they had. And then you have in here, we always just double check, even though it's on the check-in form, you could write in here if there were, let's just say it was an embroidery machine and they had a missing embroidery foot or any notes on there that was previously there that you noted. And these are two different lines. So you can type in here and it won't go any bigger. It'll just go to the next line. So, okay. So down here in the parts department, you're going to have to handwrite on this form when you print it out. And I did that because honestly, parts don't come up a whole lot. When you're doing things like bobbins, needles and things like that, those are considered consumables. So you're not having to charge tax or charge for those parts or anything. This is more like if you have a belt or a bobbin case or some specific part that you have to charge tax for, I would list them here. And then you put it, I just wrote this part all in. And then eventually I typed in over here what the parts, total was down here. So, and I did that just because it wasn't worth building in some type of form that took up a lot of space there to handle parts. So you would mark service fee and do whatever your service fee is there. Chemical clean means, if you've had especially an older machine that needed a bunch of cleaning out that you're charging $15 extra for, you could mark that there. Parts, again, you're just going to put in your amount. Labor, if you had charged anything additional like motor service or anything like that. And then other. So we left spaces there to fill in. So you could just put in your total. And then in the next service, if they had it serviced in August, I would just put August. I'm reaching across the
Sure you would.
thing there. August 2025. And then I tried to add, this is where I kind of feel like, I don't know if anybody ever appreciated it, but I feel like there's always power in knowledge. So I did try to add in any notes, like if there were thread caught in needle bar area, burrs on bobbin case. And you can even, if you have nothing, you can just put in there cleaning, lubrication, check the belt, anything that you want to put in there for the customer. And then you can come back later and mark in here how they paid, cash, check, Square. I added Zelle in there because somebody had mentioned that and the date they paid. And then when I saved it, I would do save as. And then I created a file on my computer that it was just marked, I think it's customer files. And I saved it by last name, comma, I think it allowed comma, last name, comma, first name. And then if it was like a year later, another one came in, I think I started adding the year behind it. That way it was easier to find. So this is in the guides in the Facebook group. If anybody has anything that you find would be helpful and I can, add on here, I'm happy to do that, or suggestions. If you get to using it and you have suggestions, I'm happy to alter it. So just let me know. And that's all that I really have. I just want to make sure everybody, I'm going to take this video and put it a link to just that part. I'll put this video into the module with that. So it'll be there when you guys go to use it. So does anybody else have anything or any questions about that? Oh.
Unmute, there we go. Bye. Would it make sense, if you've got people that maybe have multiple machines, would it make sense to file it as by their name and the year and then the machine?
That's
Just in
probably what
case
I
they-
did, because you're right, Dawn, because I'm thinking back and I honestly can't find my files. They're probably on like 3 computers ago. Like I think I used a Chromebook in the shop because that's all it was for, was documents and internet. So I do think that you'll find a method, especially if they have multiple machines, and people do like to bring them all together sometimes. I would definitely come up with some type of file system that's consistent. I know you'll be good at that. Some of us others may not, but yeah, I think you can come up with a filing system that makes it easy to identify. And it really only becomes a hassle when it's like years later. So I think I got to the point where every 6 months I would put those into a folder by itself and label it and then start a new one, just so it wouldn't have like 10 of the others. Oh, Christy, if you didn't hear, yeah, Dawn had asked if about a filing system, like if they have multiple machines, how you would save that file. So I do think you just kind of come up with your own system, you know, something that becomes consistent as it arises. That's what I did. So
I mean, I could see something like, last name, first name, year, Singer 1591 or something,
Yeah.
just so you kind of can know what it's.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I do have, like I said in my post, I do have our form. I just have to find where the file is from, because I'm like three computers later now. I do have to find the form, the original form that we were using in the shop, which is much more complex. The reason I want you guys to have that one is because of our disclaimers and all that info on there that would be helpful to you to see the direction that we moved in as the volume picked up. So I will get that posted probably this weekend. I think I found the folder and I bookmarked it earlier today to dig that form out. That one was back, that was front and back. That one actually has a whole lot of fine print on it because of our disclaimers and information on there. And then on the back we had spots for 3 machines. So that actually comes in handy. So I'll make sure I get that one posted this week with some instructions. And that one was just a, one that they filled out. So but as far as this form, this should kind of get you through until you get to the point where you need a different system for keeping track of customers. So is Tammy on? Tammy's not on. Tammy's not on, but and I know I've talked about this before. Tammy had emailed me earlier today and asked about pricing, which I know we've talked about a few times. She's probably going to post in the group and ask for those of you that are already doing this, kind of what your pricing looks like and you don't feel obligated to disclose that if you don't want to. That's always voluntary. Like I always say, for Tammy, if you're watching the replay, is that it's very subjective. Every area is different. My advice is not necessarily to be competitive with anybody in your area, but also remember that if you're not yet doing timing adjustments and things, those shops are including that in their pricing fee. So you kind of have to adjust for that a little bit. But I think I'm going to have her just post in the group, and if anybody wants to volunteer. And yeah, Sally, I know I don't really have. Oh, did you find the form? You probably, because you're the one that printed it.
Yeah, I had like 20 of them downloaded because I'd always be like, I need the form, I gotta print more, and I never knew where it was on my computer. So now I have like a bunch of them.
Well, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get that uploaded this weekend, tomorrow probably. Sally, I think what I had, I only know my pricing when I first started. I think I was doing $62 for mechanical machines, and what was I doing for computerized? Like maybe 80.
I don't remember
82.
when you first started.
And I probably wasn't charging that for like a Juki with the electronics in it or anything, but that was kind of where I was starting. And we were in Atlanta and we were surrounded by shops. I mean, when we actually went public with our business, we were less than 3 miles from the guy that's been doing it for 4 generations. So I wasn't trying to compete by price. It's just I didn't have the same overhead that they did. And so that was, of course, a draw for customers. They weren't paying a big giant shop staff and rent. So that was kind of where I started. There is I'll find it. There is a session that we did in the very beginning of Industry Night where I showed our website and our pricing. So I think it's in the replays. but I'll see if I can find it and I'll tag you in it. Let me,
Yeah, if you
yeah,
charge too little,
yes.
then you're undermining the whole industry.
And well, no, you're undermining yourself.
Myself too, but yes.
Yeah, because that's the thing is like, I'm more protective of you guys in the industry. The industry will always sort itself out. And dealers don't really care anything about that either. So those are your biggest competitions anymore. Let me find a blank page here. So Sally, I'm gonna tag. And I still haven't done my notes from last week. So Sally needs tag with pricing. Yeah, and we did kind of go over it. I did compare our website pricing, which of course was at the end of our journey, and that's when we were a full scale shop doing full scale services. But I think I also contrasted that with what we were charging in the early days. So I'll tag you in that, and that'll be a lot more better information than I'm going to give you off the top of my head now. And always, like I said, feel free to post in the group and ask. And we always tell people it's always voluntary. If you want to talk about how you're charging, it's never an obligation. So that's not, required of you by any means. But everybody here likes to help each other out. So that helps too. We have anything exciting happen for anybody this week? Or it's summertime, so like I said, I know this is why we did our platform transfer now, because everybody's traveling and on vacation, and it's a little less pressure to get things done. So
I finally got my Juki cover back on.
oh yay!
That's the one that it was taped together when I got it. And then I also, I mean, just a small piece of tape, and then I thought, oh, I can do this, and then I made it so much worse.
Well,
but eventually I got it back together.
Well, good. I'm happy to hear that. I don't know if you see in the chat, but Spike kindly posted his link to his website. He said it's there if you want to see his rates. And that is one question people ask all the time. I don't know if you all saw Rebecca posted her link in the group this week, and people ask all the time, should I put my rates on my website? Honestly, I feel like that's better than not. We are in the age where people want to know things before they commit to them, especially something like machine service. So I think there's no harm in putting your rates on your website. I think that saves actually a lot of hand wringing from potential customers too. So.
Well, and that makes sense just from a customer standpoint. I mean, I budget stuff. So if I know how much it's going to cost, then I'll just keep saving it until I'm ready to go. Absolutely. And then I'll take it in. So let people plan.
And that's what's happening this day and age. I mean, it's one reason people are neglecting their machines is, that's, like I said, you guys have a competitive advantage just by being more accessible and more affordable because you don't have the overhead. The amount of emails we get of people so fed up with paying dealer fees and service fees and having to wait 6 weeks with no return phone calls or anything. Everybody's just kind of fed up and feel taken advantage of when they have saved up and waited all that money, or gone into the shop and figured out that they're wanting a bench fee and a service fee or things of that nature. So be as transparent as you can on your website is my recommendation.
So now that I've dealt somewhat with electronic ones and non-electronic ones, what is the logic behind charging more for electronics? Is that there's a higher risk that you will break?
Absolutely. Yeah, okay. And getting into, usually when it's a mechanical machine, you're not worried about, it does take extra time because you're not having to work around wires and motor, like components and sensors and things. And that really, for most of you, that's really going to come more important for, I'm imagining most of you in this group are going to want to go into timing and advanced adjustments to keep furthering your skills because you're wanting to do it as a career or a business. That becomes even more important when you get into timing aspects because you're even working around even more of those things. So when you start moving into embroidery machines, especially, those are more time consuming because you really do need to do at least a small stitch out on those embroidery machines. So even when it's a small one, and then that becomes, even though you're not really actually actively working on it, you can't just like walk away and leave the machine. You got to sit there and monitor it. So I think there's just a little extra care that goes into working with the computerized machines and making sure that wires are connected and checking things out inside.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's pretty standard. And I think there's a lot more shops, like the dealer shops that are starting to move to a flat fee. And instead of making it the affordable one, I think I've heard more now than ever that people are charging literally a flat fee of $150. Doesn't matter if it's a featherweight or a more complex embroidery machine.
Yeah.
And then charging even more when you get into the Viking, the Epics and the M7s and 17s for Janome, all the big giant $12,000 machines are next level. So, but I think that they're starting to move to like $150 regardless of how simplistic or how complex it is. So, yeah.
That's what the local shop here has done. The
Yeah.
dealer shop.
Yeah.
They're at a flat fee and they went to the high side for everything.
Yeah. And it's hard for me to really be in judgment of that, because that's kind of what happens with inflation. People have less and less technicians available. And if you've heard me talk about it, it's kind of a loss leader for these service shop or for the dealer shops, because their job is to sell machines. And so they sometimes are paying the technician more than they're actually making in service fees. So,
I actually got to see her numbers.
oh yeah,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's not a loss leader for her.
that's good. That's real good.
She's making just about 50% margin on all of her service stuff.
When you do it right, yeah, when you have the staff and you can do it, and I don't even, to be honest with you, I don't even know if you go work for a dealer, I have no idea what a technician gets paid. Literally, there's really nothing out there because people don't talk about those things. And even when I supported a dealer, we were two different businesses. So people paid me for service. I was not an employee. So I don't even know what a salary looks like for a technician that goes to work for a dealer or a shop at all.
Well, see, in this particular case, he's just like me. He's a contractor.
Yeah, I say
Yeah.
most people probably move to that.
Yeah, and I get paid on a per machine basis. So, if he gets 10 machines, he gets paid for 10 machines to work on. If he gets one, he gets paid for one machine. That's kind of the rate, and he's got his rate,
Mhm.
and then she doubles it.
Wow.
That's awesome. While I know that's painful for other people, but that's the nature of business though. That's what you have to do people got to keep their doors open and keep that healthy bottom line.
Yep.
I tell quilt shop owners all the time, if you're not putting someone in there as a contractor, as a technician, you're leaving money on the table. It helps you at your shop and it helps your community. When we had a third technician, which was Paul's brother, we did the same way. We did a split percentage. So it was a 70-30 split because I did all the marketing and collecting the fees and everything. So he was paid 70% of every machine he worked on. And when it got to the complex things like gear replacement and those Viking 6000s and all those, he determined what would be worth it to him.
Right.
That. And so either the customer would take it or leave it. And sometimes that's for those complex things, you have to do that. So.
Yep. Well, it's interesting. I know what she charges people for me to do a clean and service on their long arm, and I know what she pays me, and she's making money hand over fist with her service stuff.
That's what I tell people. I was like, as long as us as individuals that are the contractors, if we can avoid the overhead of the rent and all of that stuff, this is an extremely lucrative business because, as you know, it doesn't take a whole lot to get into it. You're not investing a $10,000 investment on fees and parts and things of that nature. So, I mean, once you get yourself going and you get consistent business, it's amazing how fast your family income. That's what shocked me. I mean, when I was starting off and doing like 2 or 3 machines a week, that was huge for us just to have that extra,
Spending money.
yeah, like I think I was charging, it was like $180 extra a week, but that was a lot of money because, we needed it.
Yeah.
And the thing about sewing machines is when you need money, you just work harder and service more machines. So
Now, getting people to come and pick them up sometimes, that can be
I feel
a
like
little
that wasn't
difficult
really
sometimes.
that was not a problem for us
Not always.
until the issues we had on people not picking up, that really happened during COVID because a lot of people got really, stuck at home and like, oh, I have all this time to sew. So they would drop off a machine. By the time it was ready, they'd be like, never mind, I'm not even sewing anymore.
And it seems like it never got better after COVID
didn't.
either.
Our issue before COVID was on restorations. And that's because it's not an immediate need, or it's not like it's a machine that they were using and are relying on. If it's grandma's machine and she passed away 20 years ago, it's kind of neat to have it, but it's not like, man, I really got to get over it. Some people were very enthusiastic. Others were like, I'll get there when I get there. And then 6 months down the road, we're still calling them to come get their treadle out of the corner of our shop. So that's why during COVID, we did start doing a $25 deposit, because people are a little bit more invested in going to pick up that machine when they have that deposit. I don't think most of you as a home-based business will have that struggle until you hit volume, but that is something to keep in mind. If you start having issues with people not picking up, then you may need to start considering a deposit.
Yeah, I don't have trouble with people picking it up.
Good.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and I hope it's changed. I really think it's probably
Me
changed.
too, yeah.
All of us took a long time to get back to some kind of normal after COVID. So Christy said, what type of turnaround time are we looking at for parts when we need to replace something on your modern machines? Well, it kind of depends on the part. All your basic parts, as far as belts and bobbin winder tires or bobbin cases, usually are pretty good. If you're looking for vintage parts, it just depends. Some of them are really, really easy to get. I'd say most things are probably easy to get.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
But like Paul's working with, who are you? You're working with Mike right
Hey.
now.
Yeah.
And Maddie, yeah, and with Mike's looking for a really hard to find screw.
He's gonna have to find me the clamp, I think.
Yeah, which, at least there's an option. So it really depends. But honestly, like even in restoration, I feel like it's like maybe 1 out of 10 machines needed parts, other than a belt or
Yeah, when
bobbin
it's
winder tire.
bobbin tires and belts and things like that, and
Standard.
even spool pins, you
Mhm.
know, those are the kinds of things you can kind of buy and have. It's the odd things, like some random bobbin case.
Yeah, or a check spring off of like a JC Penney.
Oh man, yeah, just forget about it.
I'm working on compiling a list of hard to find. I know I covered that a little bit in some of the programs, but I think we're working on a list of hard to find parts and things, so that if you take in a machine of that, that type, then you'll know that automatically what to look for. I do have a list somewhere that we kept with,
Yeah.
for Deanne. But sewing, if you're ordering now for wholesale, which is probably something I need to get into, for if you guys are ready, I can talk about wholesale next week and bring some sources. When you have your tax ID and all that good stuff, then you're able to get PD60, which was located in Georgia and California, and they're wholesale, so you're paying pennies mostly for parts rather than sewing parts online prices.
Right.
And it's also nice. I think they have a $25 minimum on their order, so it's not crazy. But that comes in really handy, because my complaint about sewing parts online is you could pay, $3.50 for a check spring and then $6 for shipping. So, so that's that kind of eats at your bottom line. But I do recommend, if you know you're going to do this and you're pursuing it, definitely get your tax certificate with your state, so you're eligible for wholesale, and PD60 will be probably your biggest resource for that.
Yeah.
And we'll walk through that. They're really good. We were so lucky. When we moved our shop to Cumming, Georgia, we were only about 20 minutes from their warehouse. So during COVID, we were able to still go pick up orders instead of having to wait for them to be shipped, and that saved the shipping. But they are pretty fast and efficient. And when you call them, if you like to call and make an order in person, somebody answers, your account rep answers on the first ring. So it's like you're not sitting around waiting for someone to give you some attention. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey, if you shop around too, McMaster Car, I was able to find the wicks and buy it by the several feet,
That's
which
what
is
we
a
did.
lot cheaper.
Yes.
Yep, Paul, we still have it in the bag even. Yep.
There you go.
Yeah. And also on the rotary, didn't you start using their rotary, the motor drive?
No, that's from Harbor Freight.
I know, but
You talking about my rotary tool?
no, the on the back of a white machine when it's a
Oh,
like a white
the drive
rotary.
wheel.
Yeah,
on
so
the motor.
on a white rotary machine, there's
Yeah.
where the motor is up against the hand wheel. Now theirs was a little bit more, probably a lot more expensive. You can get one of those drive wheels for like $5 anywhere else,
Yeah.
but then you have to like hollow out the inside and make it fit. Remember?
Yeah, there were some that we had to kind of grind away at the inside to get them to go onto the shaft of the motor. But did we have to do that with the McMaster ones?
No.
too? No? Okay.
No,
I can't remember.
But the MasterCard had one that was more like a foam instead of like that hard rubber that gets the dent in it. For some of our customers really like the McMaster car version, and this is the thing that sits on the motor that rubs up, that it basically turns the hand wheel on these rotary machines. They liked the rubber ones, that the foamy rubbery ones.
Yeah, the softer
but
ones.
they were like
yeah.
$20 something.
Yeah, they were not
$5
cheap.
though.
They were not cheap.
Oh, and
But the other good thing about McMaster, at least where we were at, if they have a warehouse nearby, you can get it next day a lot of times. They send out a truck and make local deliveries. But that's if you have a warehouse nearby.
I wonder if they're growing too,
I don't know.
because Harbor Freight's everywhere right now.
Yeah, Harbor Freight is, yeah. But
And Mirzah was
Oh, McMaster.
asking, she said, sourcing info on nice wiring. That's probably a good thing. Do you want to talk about wiring a little bit? Sourcing, because I know that's come up a lot lately.
yeah.
Here. I'll move over so you can.
So a lot of times I would just use lamp cord in the beginning. You know, it's two strands bonded together. But there were some machines that we got that definitely
We ordered, didn't we?
they deserved a nicer looking wire, I guess you could say. And what I found was if you look up vintage or lamp supplies,
We did
Right.
find a really good one.
yeah, there are websites out there, and there was one in particular. They literally just sold lamp supplies, and they had a lot of vintage stuff in there. You know, it was newly made, but it looked vintage. So you could get really good 2-strand wire with the fabric, you know, sheathing on it. That looked vintage, but it wasn't. It was newly manufactured and probably had much more insulation on it than the old original wire did. What else did they sold? And the plugs. They sold like the Acorn style vintage plugs and things of that nature. Where I couldn't find those at a lot of times, you know, even through PD60. They sold some plugs, but not.
We did not
all of
we
them.
didn't like PD60
I didn't.
plugs.
I didn't care for theirs too much.
We need to pull out our
Um,
supply, because we bought them from an independent site, I think.
Yeah,
Are they still in there?
I've got these. These came from a hardware store.
Yeah, we didn't like those either, I don't think.
Yeah, well, they're okay because they have
Yeah,
they're rubber.
our struggle sometimes with
but-
getting the wiring to fit comfortably without having to like, I don't know, force it to close up or.
Right, and these, you know, these were great.
Here's our wire back there.
But you can see this brown part is actually a rubber. It's flexible, so you could just kind of pry it off there, run your wires through there. They just screw into the two posts, and then you just push this back on and just kind of squeeze it around there, and it'll lock in. I want to say I got these at an Ace Hardware, but I might be wrong on that.
Was this the actual wire?
That is the 2-strand wire that we started with.
Yeah, we had another.
Yeah,
We're still trying to unpack.
yeah, I know. But yeah, this was just a spool of lamp cord that we got from Home Depot or something. It's 18 gauge lamp cord.
Yeah, I
Good
think
for up to
we
300
used
volts.
a 16 though, that's why.
Yeah.
I recommend 16 when you can, didn't we?
No,
Were you
18.
using
I use 18. It's smaller.
Okay.
It's easier to get into
I
some
can't
of those
remember
plugs
now.
and stuff.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, you didn't do it.
It just seemed, I did, just not as much as you. It just seems thinner than I remember.
No, it's very thin.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that was why I think I had told somebody earlier on Facebook when I first started doing rewiring, I actually was using wire that I had scavenged out of an old treadmill, and the wiring harness, everything in there was 18 gauge, but it was all different colors, you know, so I would use what I needed and just cover it up in heat shrink. So there were definitely ways to get around having to spend a whole lot of money.
Yeah, he was for the longest. Paul is a collector of, you know, you never know when you're going to need that someday. So we had a garage full of someday things,
Yeah.
which I will say some things did rarely come in handy. And one of the things he used every inch of wire off of a treadmill
I did.
that we had
I did.
in the rewiring projects at some point.
Yep.
That's the rest of the treadmill was
Well,
useless.
no, I was never got to do what I wanted to with that, but that's okay.
I don't even want to know.
Yeah. I was gonna make a giant sander for my woodworking shop using a treadmill as the base so that I could do these big anyway.
Were you really?
Yeah, that was the plan. It just never worked out.
He didn't even bother to tell me about that. Sally said that's the best thing to do with a treadmill.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but nobody ever walked on it. I mean,
I don't even know where it came from. I don't think we.
yeah,
it
we
was
got
ours.
it. We got it from Beth's daughter. Yeah,
Oh, yeah. that's right.
Anyway.
The freebie.
it was a freebie,
Yeah.
but it became a
Trying to think if there was
laundry
anything
shelf
else.
at some point. I will make a note on the plugs, because we did find a specific source we like for everyday plugs. And whoever it was that asked in the group was asking about the end of that plug. The old style plugs had just like a piece of cardboard at the end, which for electrically scared me, I don't like that. So we kind of made it a rule to replace all the plugs with something that didn't have bare wires on the end of it. So we'll put that in our sources. And I was trying to think there was a fourth source. All right, does anybody have anything else? Sally, do we replace plugs often? No, I wouldn't say often. Usually it's when somebody needs a full rewiring job, or because, you know, we do teach in our programs, like if you don't have to rewire the whole thing, then don't. We don't let anything go out the door with electrical tape if we can help it. If the customer would insist on it and there was actually like some splicing going on in there, then we would make them sign something saying they know that that's a hazard. We would try to use liquid tape, which I think we have right here. And if it's like just a nicked like cord or something, we would do, you can get this at Home Depot. It's liquid tape. Use it in a ventilated area. It will kind of give you a headache or get you high, one of the two. And so when there's like nicks in the cord, which like if a cat chewed on something, or you can see just a little bit of bare wire, all you have to do is just put it's goopy.
Hopefully it's not dry.
Oh, it is actually, it's a lot goopier than this is. This is dried up. But it would be, you just dab a little on there, and I use a Q-tip or a paintbrush, and it dries pretty fast. So we try to repair when we can. As far as plugs go, she was asking if we replace a lot of plugs, but I wouldn't say a lot.
Not a lot. And actually, you know, you got to figure on a lot of machines, if the lead cord and stuff is
Mm-hmm.
fried, it's easier just to buy another lead cord. They're what, $15, $17?
Yeah.
And it's already got a plug on it. You know, it's all molded in and everything. So you
It's
don't have to worry about it.
Like when did we do? I can't even think of when we would do a lot of standalone electrical. Because we would even switch to a Japanese lead cord on.
Now, there were
on the
times if I had to
Chicago
rewire
plugs.
one of those type of motors that required a plug, then of course, you know, I'd have to put a plug on that.
But I don't think we did do a lot of plugs. That's
really
why I
didn't.
can't remember who our
Yeah.
sources were, because we just weren't really.
Yeah, and that's why we never really found a good source for them, because we didn't do enough of them.
Mhm,
You know, it was like, I mean, what we have here is from when we had our shop,
mhm.
and I've still got probably 5 or 6 of them in here that just never got used. And I
Yeah.
had black and brown ones, you know, and I think I probably only bought about.
Yeah, I know a
Half a
lot of
dozen.
people like to save every little thing, but sometimes your sanity and time is money comes into play.
Yeah.
And so like, instead of going through the trouble of rewiring up the lead cords, which comes from the foot pedal and goes to the machine and the wall, it is so much cheaper just to buy. And we kept the ones that are the 1, 2, 3 plugs, which goes to featherweight, 99, any of those that unplug on a Singer cast iron, we kept those in stock. I think we paid
Yeah.
$7 wholesale. So we would keep 5 or 6 of those on hand because you knew you were going to use them.
Right, we still got
But
some over
we-
there, I
we
think.
do. Yeah. I found a 10 pack of lead cords with molded plugs, bare wire. Oh, on Amazon. You know, we did not have these. Amazon is definitely different than what it was
It
back
sure
in the day.
is.
It amazes me how many people are able to find good products on Amazon a lot faster and cheaper than we were able to get back in the day. So I'm happy that that's coming along. When it comes to, let me think, anything for a Husqvarna, if you have a customer that has a Husqvarna Viking, the one thing I would caution against are any feet that are not authentically Viking. Those are all over on Amazon, and I have seen so many damaged machines because the specs are just off a hair. So you might be able to get it on the machine. That goes for any replacement part on a Viking. People are very desperate to find Viking parts because you can only get them from dealers. There's almost no option. So there's these sub companies, one's called like the Color of Change or something like that, where people are wanting to buy like needle clamps or threaders or things that they don't have access to, and they are horrible products. So outside of their standard things, if there's brand specific things you have someone asking for, I would say consult with us first and I can give you a warning. But I've seen some really bad things happen from off-market parts.
Yeah, there are definitely times when it's better to tell somebody, look, you're gonna have to go to a dealer for that.
Yeah.
You know, and Husqvarna Vikings are one of them.
And Bernina.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, even something as simple as a needle clamp on a Husqvarna, you just can't find them.
There's a known issue on the older, we're talking like diamond, well, even probably the designer ones, but like the diamonds and the rubies and sapphires, they had a problem with the needle clamps are aluminum. So people have a tendency to really crank that screw that holds the needle in, and then it splits the aluminum. And the only way to fix that is to replace the entire needle bar. And I think Viking did that on purpose, probably for proprietary reasons. So you'd be forced to go back into the shop, but you can't buy those clamps anymore. So those are the kinds of things you start to see pop up on Amazon from sub companies, and you end up paying $50-something for them, and then they don't work or they damage the machine. So those are the kinds of things that just be aware of when you get into those kinds of repairs. And that's what we're here for. So we have seen it all.
Yeah. Cheapest is not always the best option, that's for
or
sure.
just available. And it broke my
That-
heart.
true.
It would kill me that someone would come into our shop, and literally the only problem with the machine was the needle clamp, and there was nothing I could do because the guy we were working for at the time was not a Viking dealer yet.
Nope.
And there was just literally nothing we could do. So I even had a lady that bought her machine in Florida and moved to Georgia, and it was one of those Epics, which are the really expensive high-end Viking machines, and she had to drive her machine all the way back to her original dealer because of the way their system worked, just to have that needle clamp replaced. So yeah, I know. When you invest in those big machines, I expect more. So, and I'm not opposed to modern machines at all. So just be careful your purchase.
Got one coming tomorrow.
I'm gonna ask if you allow me a moment here to share a second with Spike. Spike, I did find the thing, but it's not the correct one because this is a single disc, not the double disc of the 401 that you were looking for.
Yeah.
The tension. Yeah, this is a single disc,
Yeah.
not the double disc. And when I found, because I knew this was a bronze color one, and I said, I think I have one of those, and it turned out to be a single disc. If you ever
Right.
need one of those, I got it. Yeah, and I have the other, the rest of the, the
Yeah.
discs that go, it's an entire set. So I do have another question. Because I have some parts, my sister is she knows I do this, and she does a lot of estate sale type shopping and stuff like that. And whenever she finds something like this, she picks it up for dirt cheap, and that's all well and nice, because if you do get a list going here, it's nice to be able to swap them out or whatever. But is there a way? I have two, what's it called? Not the bobbin case, new in the box. It's not a bobbin case, it's the whole unit,
Like a
and what's it called?
Like a hook assembly?
The hook assembly, right? And it has the bobbin and I think it has a bobbin and everything in it, the hook assembly. And it's new in the box, and it has a number on it, but I have no idea what machine it goes to, because is there a place where you can find, it has a part number, but I don't
What
know.
you might be able
Parts
to
on
do
the-
is go to selling parts online and put
Mhm.
that part number in their search bar
Mhm.
and see what comes up. That would
Okay.
be the best bet. And even, you can even just go to Google and type in
Mhm.
Singer part number.
Well,
And then
Mhm.
if you know it's for a
Yeah.
singer,
Right.
and put in the part number, just type it in and see what comes up. And
Yeah.
use a lot of image search.
honestly, we
for that
use,
kind of
we
stuff.
usually use sewing parts online more for research purposes than we do actually buying products.
Yeah.
That's how I
Mhm.
teach how to find bobbins, but that's what we used to do because customers would sometimes go online and buy their own parts thinking they could do it themselves. And they're like, oh, this is I'm not doing this. Then they just bring us the part and it would have the same thing. It would have a number on it and we couldn't even
Mhm.
verify it was for the right machine. But what I like is on sewing parts online is they'll even give you alternative part numbers. So if different manufacturing companies use a different serial part number, then it'll show up on there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These were definitely Singer parts because it's new in box and it's a little box and it had little tissue paper and everything that shredded apart. It was brand new and it's nice and shiny, not rusted or anything. And I said, I have no idea what this machine goes to. So, I was looking to see if there's a reference where, you can find part numbers or, where they go to at least.
Yeah. That's where I would start. And then like Paul said, I would do, if that doesn't help, then try searching in Google. I don't know if if you know it's Singer, I would put in Singer and that number and see if that comes up because I will say Google has come a long way on that too. Is being able, I don't even have to type in sewing machine anymore when I put in if I'm in the Remove Your Covers program, I always having to go look at images of machines to think about what it's like. And I don't even have to put in sewing machine anymore. So I did my part to train Google.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Because like I said, she'll see some stuff and she goes, I don't know if you need this, but it was cheap. And I said, okay. Sometimes it's a good find and sometimes we'll keep that around.
Just tell her not to spend any money on buttonholers or the
Oh,
things that
no,
are pretty
no,
big
no, I told her that.
So
enough
yeah,
of
those
those.
things are so cheap and easy to find.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're neat, but
Yeah.
We've got boxes of them.
we do. If you really
Yeah.
want to also
Dozens
do.
Yeah.
and dozens of buttonholes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do have at least half a dozen of that. I told her that don't get me any of those,
For someone
but
like buttons holes.
I know, right?
yeah.
No,
I've got several of them and I don't think I've ever I wouldn't even know how to use them. It's like, is it worth it? No.
No.
So
But they're a dime. They're also, I feel like antique stores end up making good money on those because when people are first getting into vintage machines, they're neat.
Right.
But then
They look cool.
yeah, so they're an easy
They're a nice
go.
display thing. If you
Mhm.
have a nice decorative sewing room or something, to me, that's a nice display to kind of have sitting on a shelf, but practically using that thing.
Nah.
yeah.
We would get people bring those in for service though.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we would have people bring those in with their machine and say, can you clean and
Which, in case you're
service my
wondering,
buttonhole?
you treat it like anything else. You clean it out and lubricate where there's any moving parts.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, even just Blue Creeper works.
Matter of fact, we got a video on that in our courses.
Thanks to you.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah,
Oh yeah, you did do that
I can
recently.
do that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Anyway,
Then-
anything else?
Yes, Mirzad says, I love the auto zigzagging with big cams. I know we did have a lot of customers that would ask us about feet functions. In fact, Molly is in our program. Molly is a long-term customer of mine. She is a featherweight loyal lady and she's retired now, and she travels to Denver twice a year to be with her grandkids, and she leaves a featherweight there. She has one at home, and she wanted to pay me to teach her how to use all the feet. And I'm like, you'd be paying me for nothing because I sew a straight stitch. That's about it. I make quilts. So she does ruching and heirloom sewing and all that stuff. And I was like, I can probably point you in the direction of a book. But
Google
yeah. But I do like zigzagging with the attachments on straight stitch machines too. And Lauren's not on, I don't think Lauren's in our group, but if Lauren's in our vintage program, if you ever get a chance to check out her Facebook page, Lauren is actually doing manual embroidery on her treadle, which is amazing. So on a side note, for people who have good skills with manual machines.
Yeah,
I know.
I have a quick question if you have enough.
Of course.
So my coolest acquisition of recent times, which I just got the 206, which is very cool. And it's right now it sews absolutely crappy and it's still beautiful. Like, I look at the stitch that it makes when you just turn the hand wheel without, because it's electrical needs work, but the stitch is still like unbelievably beautiful. And I know it's like just absolutely the worst that this machine can do, but so earlier this week though, I picked up a 237, and the reason that it attracted me, aside from just that they're nice, solid, but extremely heavy machines, is that it had it looked like it had a hand crank, which I have never seen included with a 237 before. And so, but it was hard. It was just pictured from the back. I love it when people just give you pictures of the back of the machine.
Oh, isn't
Yeah.
that frustrating?
It's freaking hilarious. The only good thing I can say about it is it gives me a fighting chance of getting there first, because, people don't always realize what that might be.
Mhm.
Well, in any case, it has a hand crank. I have not fully investigated it yet, but I went and picked it up. But it's like the hand crank, instead of being black, is cream colored. And what it is a guy who used to have sailboats, and he wanted a machine that he could do sails on. And so he got a 237, and he spent a couple $100 to have a sewing machine place outfitted with a hand crank capability. So it still has a motor, but it also has, what they did was they swapped in a spoke wheel. And then there's this, they swapped in a spoke wheel, and then there's this hand crank, but it's cream colored. So I've never seen anything like it. I have to check over it and see if it's original or not. But, my God, I think if it's original, then I definitely got my money's worth and then some.
I would think so. I will, along those lines, if you all have ever seen these, this is what you kind of see on non-spoked wheel machines. So it's basically the stop.
Oh, that's clever.
Now, my only complaint about these is that on your spoked wheel with a hand crank, they are way more efficient because you're going to get about 2 needles per turn. This one is literally turning the same as the machine. So you're going to be doing this. It's like rolling up a car window, and your machine's still going to be going slow. It's way more efficient and faster with the spoke. But in an instance where you have to get by, these are not terrible. I don't know that you would want to do like an entire quilt with one of these. On a side note, one of the things we never really had time to explore, if you're familiar with the Treadle On group, they've been around for a long time. And thankfully, Mia Cleft has taken over.
She's awesome.
Isn't she great? I finally met her at QuiltCon this back in February. So I think that we're going to get to work together. I'm hoping that in 2025, I might be able to attend a few Treadle On events and maybe host one even. But one of the challenges that they used to do back in the day was, I think once a year they would take the challenge of treadling a non-treadle machine. So like anything that you could get to fit in a treadle base, that you could get like one of the Amish belts around the hand wheel and still treadle it. That was one of the challenges that they did every year at one of these.
I have one sitting right behind the computer that you're on right now. It's a dial and sew, which I have to confess I was completely suckered by the thing. I thought, I turned that dial, but no, it just is a round thing that hides the place you put the cans. But the way that it is, I think if you take off the belt guard, basically, then it hangs over.
Yeah.
So and it looks to me like and I'm pretty sure that I measured it actually, and the spacing on the hinges is correct too for a Singer bed. So I bet you I could put that on one of my Singer treadles.
A lot of people look for the 237s because they are treadleable, but the way that they're set up. And in fact, I think even Bonnie Hunter has one in her sewing room that's a 237.
But they make such a beautiful satin stitch too. So that one, is definitely, you can do that. But that dial and sew, I have like 30 patterns for that, including like swans. Wow. So if I can get that one to treadle. Now, mind you, what I find hilarious is I think that these pattern machines are very fun and everything, but I find them slow even when run by electricity.
They are.
So it's like,
a lot of
oh,
work
look,
on
I
it,
made
yeah.
swans, but do I have the patience to make like more than one row of swans? Probably not, even when I'm putting my foot down on a piece of electrical pedal.
One of the first quilts I ever made back many years ago used that little it looked like an asterisk and it was a string of them. It took, and I was like, oh, this will be a quick, easy way under deadline to get it done. That was my stitch I ever picked in mind, because he figured did every single little line before it would advance, and it took forever. And that was on a computerized machine.
Wow. So, well, and I meant to ask you one more quick thing,
Sure.
which is just how was your Janome sewing weekend?
I was great without the Janome. I actually don't get to pick up my Janome until tomorrow.
Oh,
So it was one of
so
those.
this gets to be your sewing Janome weekend.
Partially, there's still a lot of work to do, but yes, for the state of my mental, I'm trying to not burn out, which the platform transfer, I have maintained that, but I'm going to finish the transfer of the last of our students, and then yes, I will be trying to do some sewing this weekend. So
Yay!
on Adidas Sitar's Alaska quilt I have with Batik. So it's been nothing but angles. I'm not sure that was the most stress-free project I could have chosen. But the main reason I really needed the Janome is I have quilted king size quilts on a Singer Simple. The first one I did was on a Singer Simple, and it had a ton of denim in it. So I can do it, but I got a couple quilts I need to finish for birthday gifts, and I want to be able to actually quilt them on a regular machine. So yeah, they called me at 3:45 today and said, your machine is here, and they closed at 4. So I have to go tomorrow. But that taught me the key of patience this week, the last 2 weeks.
It's your Zen master for sure.
Yes, yes.
So, good business lesson from this, though. All right. The expectation that they set is that it
A
would be
week or
delivered in a
less.
week.
He said a week or less.
A week or less. It's been 2.
And when I would call, they'd be like, we're sorry, we don't know. And I was like,
Right.
it's hard for me because I want to be disappointed because, I was on a deadline originally.
Yeah.
And I asked for it, but I also have been a quilt shop owner. And so it's hard for me to, push back. Because
Yeah, you know how it is.
it is, but
but
communicate.
they could have.
Communicate.
They could have just said, it could be as early as a week, but sometimes it's longer.
But
And
even-
then you wouldn't
even
be so
when-
disappointed.
Even when they didn't, if they could have just returned a call and let me know, because I left 2 messages and I know they're probably busy. And then I told Paul, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. It's been over 2 weeks now. So I'm like, I don't want to call and be mean because I've been a quilt shop owner, but
Yeah.
thankfully so I'm just going to put it behind me and enjoy picking up a machine tomorrow.
Right.
Because I've never done that before. So
So I'm not saying under promise and
No,
over deliver.
just-
That's not what I'm saying, but do be aware that your customer definitely listens when you tell them a time frame.
if you be proactive, so even if you ordered a part or if you knew that a machine needed something and it's taking you longer just because maybe you can't figure it out, if you can beat the customer to that phone call, you're automatically going to be in better
Oh,
graces.
absolutely.
And those are hard phone calls. So when you feel like you're failing your customer, you don't want to make that call. But I promise you, if you can be proactive and face it head on, the result is so much better.
Oh, yeah, the trust,
it
the
last
trust that you build up from somebody calling them something that they know you don't want to tell them,
Yeah.
and having the bravery to do that, you build up a lot of goodwill in the bank there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It was literally, I'd grab the phone and say, all right, 1, 2, 3, pick it up and dial,
It didn't even
And that was the only way I could do it
it was
sometimes.
bad. It was just like but
They were
we-
disappointed,
we
and I
lose
just hate
sleep.
disappointing people.
And we would lose sleep over not finding a solution for a machine or especially when the beginning of COVID, we weren't used to that. And it was just, it took its toll. And then you kind of get like your nervous system is adjusted to that. So I just say confront it head on. Even if it's sorry, it's going to have to go to the dealer, they will understand as long as you're honest. So,
Yeah.
So that is also our lesson this week.
And if you don't, and if they don't understand and you end up losing a customer, that's probably a
You-
customer you didn't want to have to deal with in the
Yeah, it's a self-selecting thing.
It is.
Right.
It is. Yeah. But I still think this day and age, people are, what I feel like I'm seeing is that so many people are avoiding service because it's just not convenient, it's expensive, and people are starting to wait until there's an actual problem. So I feel like by the time that they seek someone out, they're really desperate for you know, someone to help them. And what I'm hearing a lot is even when you call, one of the big dealer shops and ask, they're like, you almost can't get somebody on the phone anymore because they're so busy. So. Yeah, I think communications, and especially when you can do it via phone and stuff on those things, I think that's going to be really important going forward, because those are the things that are slipping away and people are hanging on to those things. So
Yeah.
yeah, we did a lot by phone still.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Oh, yeah.
Does anybody else have anything? I don't think Tom.
Actually, I have one kind of weird kind of question, I guess.
Sure, hit it.
I sent a thing to you about working on, someone asked me to work on an XL 410, which I didn't feel comfortable working on. A
Mhm.
little too advanced for me or too new.
And I apologize that I saw your email and I forgot to respond.
That's okay. No, I ended up telling her that she needed to take it into one of the guys in Knoxville. But is there some way that maybe you could put like a cheat sheet list together for us saying up to this year and maybe these models and older, you're probably safe in working on versus getting into something that's a little more complicated and beyond necessarily my current level of
Yeah, I mean,
knowledge?
really, in what our programs encompass right now, until we release our timing and advance adjustment program, the things that are always going to be in our lane are cleaning, lubrication, and minor things. So like check springs, bobbin winder, tires, when machines are seized. But as far as anything, can you remind me what the issue was with that one?
Well, she was saying it was her lower tension, but the lower tension is factory set. And so I was trying to figure out a way of maybe helping her clear out the bottom if she was using cheap thread or something like that, building up a lot of gunk down there. So I kind of gave her a couple of options, but told her ultimately she'd probably have to go in to get it adjusted, because some of the machines you have to have either a program or the right tools. And I
On now,
know.
there's no machine that you have to do. There's no machine that requires any of that for bobbin tension. For well, that one's was she using it for embroidery or for just sewing?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Was she only, because what I always tell my customers that have a combo machine, keep one bobbin case for sewing and keep one for embroidery. And that's because I don't even know how advanced that was a Singer, right?
Yes.
Those are not as advanced as like your Viking, or even Brother embroideries. Those are definitely don't have the same tensioners up top. So I would not, but the reason I keep two different bobbin cases is because your tension is definitely looser on embroidery. So when you can, we have customers that have 6 or 7 cases to keep when they wear out. So you can set the tension when it's in sewing mode. You can adjust your bobbin case for that, and then you can adjust the other one for when it's embroidery. And you just kind of match it up the same way. If in all of the programs, I do have the test sew and balance. And that would apply. You would just want, for any embroidery machine, you want to do it on 2 different bobbin cases when you can. But you can.
When you do embroidery, isn't your bobbin thread supposed to be a lighter weight too?
Yes. So that's why you would do 2 different cases.
Right.
Unless you use the same thread.
Yeah.
This is why I'm saying it's beyond me. I'm
I'm
really loving the vintage stuff.
I understand. Yeah. So basically, our rule pretty much is, and that, you know, if you encounter that issue, please reach out like you did. And I'm sorry that I missed this week. It was crazy, and you all, if I miss something, please don't feel afraid to hound me if you have to. It's just a lot of moving parts while we're transferring things, so things slip through the cracks. I don't want you to be ignored, but don't feel like you're bothering us if we miss something. But that's something we can also in the future walk you through. But it's anything beyond, like, especially electronics or and I know that's a disappointment. A lot of people have things that they want to fix that are computer screens or something burned out. That's just not in our lane. Basically it's what most people need are cleaning and lubrication. So when it gets too far beyond that, those are the things that get really complex. But yeah, we'll see if we can put together some guidelines that'll make it a little like an easy reference sheet for you guys.
Yeah, embroidery machines have a lot of
They
different things
are.
about them as opposed to a standard sewing machine,
Mhm.
even a flatbed embroidery machine. And like I was saying, even, you know, I guess what I was getting at with the different size thread
Mhm.
is if you put lighter weight thread in that same bobbin case, it's automatically going to have looser tension because the thread's not as thick, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, so you know, you're definitely going to have all kinds
Mhm.
of odd things to deal with on a machine.
And I
like
don't
that.
recommend, I feel like when it comes to on a Singer embroidery machine, I would definitely not turn those away. When you get, I would, if depending on your comfort level, for most of you, I would say don't take on too many high-end embroidery machines. If it's just regular service and all that, when it comes to tensioners, without experience, that's how I learned how to embroidery, was working on them, because you have to have stabilizer. And if you're using the wrong stabilizer, so we did basics, and then we go home and people would use like a metal hoop that was affecting something. They kind of are a
Right.
pain in the neck.
They really are, because there's a lot of aftermarket things you can get for different embroidery machines, and those can have major effects on how the machine operates.
I personally did not take on embroidery machines until I went through factory training. Now, going forward, once we get past the timing program and the serger program, we are probably going to do a little additional side thing for those of you, mainly for people pursuing business, not for hobbyists, that will have a little bit more embroidery information in it. So that's something I want to do, because I feel like if you knew more about the basics of doing embroidery, that would help you a lot. Otherwise, just kind of going at it blindly, they're so confusing. I did not love working on embroidery machines because I'm not an embroiderer. To me, the whole process of embroidery sounds like it's just a lot of work. I know there's a lot of people that's their only hobby, but for me, it's a lot of work. Barb's asking, what about a Singer? Is that a Futura? Barb, there's two different ones. There's the really, really old ones, which were like Singer's first computerized, and then there are some modern ones. If it's the old ones, I use this actually an example in open house. There is a section in the vintage group that talks about known issues with machines. Those do have plastic gears. That's one big issue. And then on the Futuras, if the electronics are not working, if the buttons don't work, there is literally no hope. So you can't really do any harm to them. But if there's any component, if the buttons don't work, or the little electric knob that changes the stitch width or the stitch length, there's literally no hope, because those are so old and nobody makes anything for those anymore. So that's my word of advice, is check everything before you do any work on those. Because otherwise you could spend, 2 hours working on it and realize, it didn't work anyway. So they're not terrible to work on. They're just, if they don't work, they don't work.
Yeah.
Hope
Do
that
you have
helps.
a suggestion that we can give to people when they're wanting to upgrade? What brand
Oh yeah.
is going to be the easiest to work on, get service, get parts, and that going forward?
I would be
My
glad.
wife has the Sapphire, and we're at the point that if something else goes out on it, it's going to be a nice paperweight in the corner.
Yeah. Can I ask what kind of issues she's had, or do you know?
We bought it in Spokane from a gentleman who said he's only one of two guys that's able to refurbish the machines. So we bought it refurbished, gave us a good warranty on it, and then we started having issues with the feed dogs wouldn't stay up. We couldn't get them down. Come to find out, the guy that had worked on it at his shop, when he put the case on, there was a slide bar in the front, and he didn't put it in correctly. So I had to take it apart, get it so it would actually function properly. And then once we moved out here to Tennessee, we took it up to Knoxville because it was just running a little rough. And I told my wife, I'm not there yet. Let's just take it in. We'll have the professionals look at it. Charged just $100 to just do the basic on it, and got it back, and her thread cutter wouldn't cut. And so I go, well, let me just take a look at it. I pulled it apart. He had taken the thread cutter, and instead of just putting a new one on and charging us for a new one, he had super glued it back together and it had broken again.
Are you serious?
Oh my.
Yeah, oh
This
yeah.
is why this is why I'm telling you all,
Yeah.
being honest and transparent and showing your customer pictures of everything. This is
Makes
why this
such a
is like an
difference.
everyday, this is happening
Yeah.
all the time.
That's why we gave them the
Oh,
broken
gosh,
parts
I'm
in a baggie if they
so
wanted them.
sorry to hear that. That is awful.
Well, I was able to get another blade with the mount, put it in, and it's been working great. But I told her I can do the basic stuff on it, but any major parts that go out on it,
Oh yeah, we're
you
all
charge an arm and a leg for
all of
parts
us,
on
our
these
hands are
things.
pretty much tied on those kinds of things because they are Viking is extremely proprietary. My short answer, if I have to pick one brand that I would be loyal to forever, it is definitely Janome. And that comes from vast experience of factory training and having done warranty for people and using them. Janome makes parts longer for their machines than any other brand, so they don't discontinue models and parts as fast as others. The downside is they have one embroidery machine and I don't love it. I don't think it's great. I think that that's not their strong suit, but I will be glad to. Yeah.
I mean, the Continental.
But
Yeah, the Continental. I mean, if you want to,
if you
take out a
have car
second
payment.
mortgage.
And I would like to have a Continental.
Yeah.
So the newest line of Janome is the Continental series, and they are gigantic. And they're embroidery, but they also have like all these quilting learning components in the computer, so you can pull up quilt block instructions right on it. Those run about anywhere between $12,000 and $17,000 right now. So that's the problem. Like you can still go to Brother and buy for $2,000, buy a decent machine. So I will be glad to put together a list of all my notes and the things I think are good, bad, and the ugly of all the brands.
That would really be a good resource. Yeah.
I do think that's something you guys are going to get questions on quite frequently,
Absolutely.
especially when you make a call about, when sorry, your future is dead. You're gonna need something else. So I would be glad to put together a resource. And I think it's good also if you have, especially there's some quilt shops that have dealers that they're a dealer, but they're not the big giant dealer shop where you go in and they've got like 4 lines of machines and all that. It's like quilt shops where they carry like 3 models. If you have one of those near you, I think it's always good to make friends with those folks because you can help each other out. A lot of times they don't have service people on staff or don't do vintage. And then you can also make friends with them. And we almost went to visit a dealer like an hour north of us. It was a Janome dealer, and we were going to offer to put some of their more basic machines in our shop. And if we sold them, then we just got to keep a percentage of it. So there's some networking things you can do to help each other that would be good. But I would be glad to put together just my personal experience and opinions, to be fair. But I do think that, and I even have some machines I would recommend off the shelf at Joann's for areas that don't have anything else too. So I'd be glad to do that. Yeah, that's a good
Yeah, I think
suggestion.
That's a really good idea.
For sure. All right. Does anybody
There's
have?
a good suggestion, get me bumped up to get on the new platform sooner.
I'm literally.
Hey, I'm on there as of today. So
That's only because I had to have him start transferring videos. Maybe I could give you a login if you want to transfer videos. I'm just kidding. I should have everybody on there by tomorrow afternoon because no, the old platform produces a spreadsheet and I have no idea what the rhyme or reason is, but so I wouldn't lose my mind, I've literally opened up an Excel spreadsheet and I keep marking off every name as we go to make sure it's good. So I think everybody should be on there by tomorrow afternoon. So I'll put a post up in the group saying, if you don't see an email, that CloudStrike thing still has its lasting effects on emails. So if you don't get it, we'll make sure that everybody's got their login, but I am very excited to get past it. I feel so behind on everything else. So, and we've got so many good things coming. All right. Is there
I gotta
anything?
tell you, I'm looking forward to the new programs you're coming out with because I want to learn more. That's why I sent you the private message on it. I really want to learn more because I started sewing when my mom taught me on a treadle machine back in the 70s. And yeah, that other century, that other millennia,
Yeah, okay.
millennia ago. but I didn't really keep it up. My wife sews quilts, that's her thing. And I've really gotten into liking this, and I've gotten to know quite a few women that are quilters around here that need help, and I just don't have the experience
I know.
or the confidence to be able to step in and say, yes, I can take care of this until I have a little bit more training.
Yeah.
I
Right.
mean, I have a dozen featherweights downstairs that I could play with. I have a dozen 301s downstairs that I could play with that we've collected over time. So I have plenty of things to play with, and I've been picking up machines as we go. 201s, we got a French 239, I think it is, or 236.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I've been trying to get a lot of different machines so I can understand how they all kind of are a little different, but kind of the same. But I would love to get more training from you. I've been
I
through
know,
all
we're
the,
trying so hard. The hardest part on our end is we've literally had to invent a wheel because no one's ever even attempted. The fact that Remove Your Covers has been as successful as it is absolutely driving many people in our industry crazy, because they've all said there's no way you can teach your average person to get into their machine properly and do the things you do. And we have obviously proven that wrong. Now that we have an official count, we've got 1,270 people across unique people across all of our paid programs. Thank you for that. That's not just, our community is what makes this amazing. But it takes so long to build programs because and the timing one, I'm not going to lie, we're going to probably release it before it's fully done. But I have some anxiety because I feel like I have to deliver, and it's scary because it is complex. But then I also feel like I was afraid that Remove Your Covers would be, because they built that up in my head. And so I think that we can get the basics where you guys will feel more comfortable doing those adjustments. The thing is you really need to know all of the components of timing, but you're really going to primarily use one of them more than any. So I know, and believe me, I am motivated by that. You have no idea, especially with all of our technology upgrades that we've had to do. But that's why the platform, I'm glad we did change platforms before that program, because if I had to transfer, we have 150 videos that are going into the troubleshooting program, and to have to have transferred all of those as well. So we had to get this out of the way. And then as soon as this is done, we're back on timing. And we are probably going to release an early version of it for you guys that are doing that. So
I don't mind prepaying, by the way, either.
I know. I'm so excited because it does change so much for everybody. And then it's the same thing with the Serger program. I feel like I can't get that done fast enough, and that's definitely going to be winter. But I know Sergers need service just as much, and most people don't have a sewing machine without a Serger. So, and they are just enough different to be annoying. So we're working, I promise we're working really hard over here. That's why I don't take too many Janome sewing weekends at all, because we're just so excited about it though. That's the thing. It's like, I feel like it's definitely a privilege for us to be able to do this. This is a kind of like a once in a lifetime thing. I have some anxiety because we're also working with VDTA in February, and she now wants me to start submitting articles to their quarterly publication, which is for dealers. And I'm like, but I've never talked to dealers before. So I'm like, we have all these new things that are on the horizon. They're exciting, but I'm also like, boy, are they testing the mental space.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate y'all being so patient with us, because some weeks it feels like we're just spinning our wheels, keeping everything going. And then some days it feels like we have some victories. So, but it's nice that we do this with you guys and not by ourselves anymore. So we're working hard on this side. Paul just got the bench all cleaned off again so we can resume videos and whatnot. So
It's a flat surface. Flat surfaces collect things.
that is true.
Yes.
Yeah, and when we lived in an RV for 4 years, there were no surfaces. So you think we'd be used to it. Now we just use all the surfaces.
I agree, Christy. That's exactly right.
It is. It is. And I want you all to remember that too, because I still think about our early days. This feels exactly like it did back then. And even though I know what I'm doing and I've been doing it for 15 years, I feel like I question myself all the time. And you guys will go through that too. So
if you're not nervous, it's not big enough, right? Isn't that what they say?
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of not fair, but it is true.
I know.
Yeah. So thank you.
Bye,
Yeah.
Sally.
Bye, Sally. If we don't have anything else, we will we'll wrap up. And nothing else. All right. Well, thank you guys. We will be on next week and I will, what did I put on my, I will, unless anybody else has any other suggestions, I think I will go into some details about wholesale. Because I think that's going to be really handy. A lot of you are already on the process of getting your credentials, and I think that will be very helpful for you. So I'm going to put together
Yeah,
some
definitely.
resources and go over our suggestions with you. And I will definitely work on some information about suggesting machines
Yeah.
and on limitations too. So thank you guys for suggestions. That helps a lot.
Absolutely.
So have a good weekend. Enjoy
everybody.
yourself and stay
Have a good
cool out
weekend.
there. Bye.